Let's be honest about something most men will never admit out loud. You've stood in front of a mirror with a ruler. You've watched adult films and compared yourself to the actors. And you've walked away feeling like you lost some kind of genetic lottery. You've convinced yourself that if nature didn't hand you 8 inches, you're physically incapable of filling a woman up enough to make her scream. You genuinely believe that how deep you go depends on one thing and one thing only, the length of what you're working with. And so you start buying sketchy creams, searching the internet for pumps, and some of you are seriously considering surgery. So let me say something as a doctor who knows the anatomy and the biomechanics of both bodies inside and out. You are worrying about the completely wrong thing. Your size is just raw material. What actually matters, what actually determines how deep you go and how she feels, is pure geometry. And here's the part that should make you exhale with relief. About 90% of men lose up to half of their usable length simply because they have no idea how the angles inside a woman's body actually work. Today I'm going to expose the single biggest mistake you're making in bed, and I'm going to give you one position that lets you go twice as deep, no pills, no pumps, no surgery. Your completely average size is going to feel enormous to her, like it's filling every last millimeter of her body. Let's start with the hard anatomical truth. Why is it that in most positions you feel like you're hitting a wall, like you physically can't push all the way in? Think of a car for a second. Every car has a bumper. That bumper stops the body of the car from slamming into a wall. A woman's body has these biological bumpers too, and they're stealing your length without you even realizing it. When you have sex in the classic missionary position, she's on her back, you're on top. Your main bumper becomes the mattress combined with her pubic bone. Here's the thing most men never learned. The vaginal canal does not run parallel to the bed. It's angled downward, toward the tailbone. So when you try to enter straight and level, your lower abdomen collides with her pubic bone. You physically cannot push any further because your pelvic bones are literally bumping into each other. And in that moment, you're leaving some of your most valuable inches sitting outside her body, doing nothing. Now let's talk about the position most men are obsessed with. Doggy style, her on all fours. Guys love this one and swear it's the deepest position there is. But I've got bad news here too. In this position, the biological bumper becomes her buttocks. And here's the irony. The fuller and rounder her backside is, the more of your length it actually steals. You're slamming your pelvis against her cheeks, and it feels like you're all the way in, like you've hit maximum depth. But in reality, only half, maybe 2/3 of you is actually inside. The rest is just serving as a bridge between your bodies. For her, it feels okay, pleasant even, but it doesn't give her that sensation of total, deep, complete filling. The kind that makes her lose her mind and lose the strength in her arms. So how do you get past these bumpers? How do you hack the geometry and use 100% of what you've got, right down to the last millimeter? You need to remove the mattress from the equation entirely, and you need to change the angle of her pelvis. In sexology, this technique is called the free pelvis position, or the edge of the bed position. It is the undisputed, absolute champion of deep penetration. And the best part, it requires zero acrobatic skill from either of you. Here's how it works in practice. You ask your partner to lie on her back, but not in the middle of the bed. She slides all the way down until her buttocks are right at the edge of the mattress, right on the border, with her pelvis even hanging slightly off into the air. You are not lying on top of her. You are standing on the floor, on your feet. If the bed is low, you can kneel with a pillow under your knees to get the right height. Now, what happens here from a biomechanical standpoint is honestly spectacular. First, you've completely eliminated the main bumper. The mattress is no longer in the way of your knees or your pelvis. Nothing restricts your forward movement anymore. Second, because her pelvis is tilted and hanging slightly off the edge, the angle of her vaginal canal changes. That downward ramp you kept slamming into during missionary, it simply disappears. The canal straightens out into a perfect horizontal line that lines up exactly with the direction you're moving. Think of it like landing a plane on a perfectly flat, long runway instead of trying to hit a ramp. When you enter her in this position, you meet zero anatomical resistance. Your pelvis presses flush against hers. You use every single millimeter you have. And trust me, Even a very modest 5.5 inches feels, in this position, like you're going straight through her. But just putting her at the edge of the bed is only half the job. To turn this position into a tool of total control and make her genuinely scream, you need to place her legs correctly. And here you've got two options, each one hitting a completely different pleasure point. Option 1. Legs on your shoulders. With her lying at the edge of the bed, you take her legs, lift them up, and rest them firmly on your shoulders. For female anatomy, this is the maximum level of opening. Her pelvic floor stretches, and the vaginal canal actually shortens slightly. Picture an accordion that's been gently compressed. In this position, with your full, unobstructed entry, you reach the deepest part of her, the anterior fornix, that deep zone we've talked about before. You start to gently, firmly massage the space right in front of the cervix, and this triggers what's called a deep vagal nerve orgasm, the kind that's impossible to reach through external stimulation alone. The sensations are so intense that many women in this position start reflexively grabbing at the sheets or at your hands, trying to hold on to reality. And here's the key with this variation. Your movements should not be fast. Speed will ruin everything here. You enter all the way, with your full weight, you pause inside for a fraction of a second so she can feel your full volume, and then you withdraw just as slowly. You're not jackhammering. You're working like a heavy, powerful press. Deliberate, deep, controlled. Option 2. Legs wrapped around your waist. If your partner is petite or fairly flexible, ask her to wrap her legs around your waist and cross her ankles behind your back. This is a completely different biomechanic. When she crosses her legs behind you, the muscles of her pelvic floor and the inner walls of her vagina automatically contract. The canal becomes incredibly tight and snug. For you, this means insane friction in a vice-like grip, an intensity comparable to the most focused manual techniques. And for her, this position creates ideal conditions for stimulating the front wall and the G-spot. With every stroke, you'll be gliding powerfully and inevitably along that front wall, hitting every nerve ending on the way. Plus, in this position, her clitoris is completely exposed, so you can add stimulation with your hand and give her that blended orgasm that completely reboots the nervous system. Now, the psychological effect of the edge of the bed position is something you cannot overstate. Sex is a game of minds, a game of dominance and surrender. When a woman is lying at the edge of the bed with her legs raised and you're standing in front of her at your full height, towering over her, that is one of the most powerful visual and psychological triggers there is. In the animal world, this is the posture of complete openness and vulnerability. And the female brain reads this arrangement of power instantly. She feels your strength, your mass, your control over every breath she takes. You set the pace, you set the depth, you control the angle. She doesn't have to do anything. All she has to do is surrender to you. And here's something worth understanding. For a woman whose entire day is spent making decisions, being in control, holding everything together, the chance to completely let go and hand herself over to a strong man like this is the single best aphrodisiac in the world. And for you, it's a massive surge of testosterone. You're looking down at her. You see her entire body. You see her chest rising and falling with heavy breathing. You watch your bodies connecting. The eye contact in this position works harder than any adult film ever could. Let me tell you about a young guy who came to see me. He genuinely worked himself into a neurosis. He had a perfectly normal, average size, around 6.5 inches. But his new girlfriend, in a moment of careless honesty, once mentioned that in a previous relationship, she'd gotten used to deeper sensations. The guy was crushed. He stopped initiating intimacy entirely. He started searching online for surgeons to do a lengthening procedure, which, by the way, costs a fortune and comes with a long list of side effects, up to and including loss of erection. I spent half an hour drawing him diagrams on paper, the angles of entry, the mechanics of the edge of the bed position with her legs on his shoulders. I told him to go home and do it with confidence, no hesitation, no questions asked. 3 weeks later, he sent me a voice message. He was laughing. He said that when he used the technique, his girlfriend was literally begging him to be gentler because he was reaching depths she didn't even know she had. He broke through every one of her barriers with his completely standard size, simply because he removed the mattress and changed the geometry of her pelvis. So here's what I need you to take away from this. Your body is a perfectly good instrument exactly as it is. You do not need to grow extra inches to become a god in the bedroom. Leave those insecurities back with the anxious teenager you used to be. Real mastery for a man isn't about size. It's about understanding physics, anatomy, and leverage. The moment you stop slamming into anatomical bumpers and start using the correct angles, you're going to be genuinely shocked at how much of a resource you've had this whole time. So remember the edge of the bed position. Make it your ace, your signature move. Experiment with the placement of her legs, shoulders for depth, wrapped around your waist for tightness and G-spot friction. Hold eye contact. Be confident, be dominant, be deliberate. Apply this biomechanics and you will give your woman the kind of sensations she'll be telling her friends about with a stunned look on her face. Because your confidence in what you're doing will always, always arouse a woman 100 times more than any measurement ever could. Subscribe. Every week I talk exactly like this. No shame and no fluff. Just what actually works. Link in the description for the questions you'd be too embarrassed to ask anywhere else.